All council chambers, if I could have everybody rise, say the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I want to welcome everybody. We've got a couple of officers being sworn in tonight. Great. We don't have any additions or corrections to the agenda or minutes anyways, so if I have a motion.
Approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, on to, need to have a motion to open.
No, public hearing.
It's on?
Call the public hearing.
Okay, yep. We're needing to call for a public hearing for a review of stormwater pollution prevention plan, engineering case item 1.
I'll move to open the hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Great. Mindy, do you have that PowerPoint, or are we just going to go off of the handout?
Give me.
While they're looking for that, the City of Wilmington is regulated underneath the Phase 2 of the federal program for reducing pollution from municipal separated storm sewer systems. They call it MS4s. Regulated cities need to be covered under a statewide national pollution discharge elimination system with the NPDES permit. Permits require including implementation of a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which they call a SWEP, SWPPP, which is to include the following 6 mandatory minimum control measures: public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. The city connects an annual public meeting to allow comment for the city's SWEP as its practice to satisfy the public involvement and participation control measure. The public meeting will provide an opportunity for comments to be provided from anyone participating in the meeting. Input from the public meeting is to be considered in the determining of this SWEP, requires revisions, and a copy of the SWEP may be reviewed at the city engineer's office and is also available online on the city's website. So this is a presentation that's been used in the past. Really not a lot has changed, so we'll probably run through it fairly quickly. If people have been here before, they've probably seen it. If not, it'll be somewhat new to them. So it's the overview is for the NPDES program background, and then the Worthington's MS4 program. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you. National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, that's the NPDES. We have federal regulations from the EPA, the Clean Water Act. This program is administered by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. The goal is to protect and improve surface water resources in a maximum 5-year permitting term. Annual reporting and self-assessment is also part of that plan. This was initially used to control wastewater discharges, but now includes stormwater discharges. The National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, MS4 program, is one of the 3 legs of the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System stormwater permit. It started out with industrial permits, includes airports and treatment plant sites. Construction stormwater permits applies to the new construction, and then the MS4 permits applies to the municipal separate storm sewer systems, the MSSSS. The statewide general permit applies to most permittees, and it requires development of the stormwater pollution prevention plan. Worthington's MS4 program, the National Pollution Discharge Phase 1 cities, it started with populations over 100,000. That was mostly Minneapolis and St. Paul. Phase 2 then became mandatory for urbanized areas. This is cities in the 7-county metropolitan area, also Rochester, Duluth, military bases, hospitals, prisons, and universities, etc. Then the last part is the designated MS4s. It's 10,000 or more in population, a density of 1,000 people per square mile. Or the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan is the 6 minimum control measures best management practices and measurable goals. The city SHWEP consists of the required best management practices established by the MPCA. Worthington's program has public education and outreach. We have 11 different parameters that meet that requirement. Public participation and involvement, there's 3 different items in there. Illicit discharge detection elimination, we have 5 areas we work with on that. Construction site runoff control, 6 items. The post-construction runoff control for new development and redevelopment, we have 3 areas we cover on that. Then the pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations, there's 8 of those. Plus we have an additional 2 other best management practices that we implement. 36 of these 38 best management practices are required by the permit. The other 2 are things Worthington already was doing, and a stormwater utility, like stormwater utilities and street sweeping. So those are things we already had going and wasn't necessarily required. Best management practices establishes expectations for the city. There's a BMP summary sheet that is used as an example that we identify the goals and that were met in the time frames we're doing that, and then that is submitted off, or we keep that in file to be audited by the state later on that. Right now, the state did not do a follow-up report for 2022 because they're changing it into an electronic process where it was a paper process before. So they'll be doing 2022 and 2023 in the year 2024. So we'll be catching up a little bit after they get their electronic system up and running. Worthington's program 2022 highlights, we make public education information materials available. As you know, if you get a utility bill, you see some of the mailings of the utility bills as information to the public. We maintain the storm system map showing where our outlets are and our retention ponds are and our treatment systems that we have. We adopted the updated stormwater ordinance. That was just done last year. I think it was in October when that was approved. It dealt with erosion and sediment control and prohibited illicit discharges. We inspect the city's storm sewer infrastructure. We do sections of the city each year, and we kind of spread it out so we don't do everything every year, but we do it through a systematic annual working. There is a stormwater website on the city's website that you can link into. The address is up there, www.ci.worthington.mn.us/stormwater. So if anybody wants to go online and see what we're doing and see the permits, they can go online and do that. Also, there you can comment to us through that website. You see, again, we have that's kind of shows you how to get on. You go to the website and stuff, and you can technical resources, and that'll link you down into the stormwater ordinance and other areas of pollution prevention plan, Okabino Cheetah requirements, Heron Lake Watershed District requirements, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System construction permit applications, and then the MPCA Stormwater Manual. So that's a link to that. Public information, this is a couple examples of the flyers that are mailed out in the utility bills. We go through that recently this year and stuff. We've been having those translated into Spanish. So that can be going to for people who are not cannot read English or not understand it in English and stuff. So that's one of our requirements for our diversity in our community. So that's something we have changed over and doing a little bit differently this year. That's an example of our systems mapping. You'll see this would be up by the south side of the lake over by Slater Park. You'll notice where it says structural BMPs in the middle there, that's on the school district property, and we map these ponds, and we map the outlets going into the lakes and streams and stuff so we can monitor those and know where the water is going into, and we can take samples if necessary to protect the lake and the other water systems. Stormwater ordinance, the erosion control sediment, small site erosion control per watershed rules. 200 cubic yards of material or 10,000 square feet of area disturbed requires small sites. Applications for watershed permits require best management practices. The requirements for projects greater than 1 acre of area require a NPDES permit. And these permits must be obtained by the BP, the best management practices. Permanent BMPs required for projects and creating over 1 acre of new impervious surface they have to have these maintained. So when they install these are something they have to have maintained. The other ones are just temporary that you put in while the construction is going on. They're removed at the end when turf establishment and everything's finished. There's also prohibits the illicit discharges. Police dispatch could be contacted if anybody witnesses or sees something they're concerned about. They can contact them, and that will be passed on and checked out by the city then. The city inspects 20% of all the outlets and basins. We have 122 outlets mapped, 8 wet basins. Actually, I think that number is a little bit low. We've had some that we just got through here in the last few years, so we need to update this. We have a few more now than what we had before. And 1 dry basin. Difference between a wet basin and a dry basin pretty much is a wet basin does not let the water permeate down into the ground. It's got clays or something in the bottom that holds the water. It'll evaporate and dry out, but it won't absorb into the ground, where a dry basin is one that will absorb into the ground and dry itself up naturally through absorption. Inspection on all structural pollution control devices. We have 5 separators, and skimmer separators are where the structure will allow the water to come in, and the sediments and stuff will dissipate out of the water before the water leaves. And a skimmer is something that you have on surface water. If you have a lot of corn stalks, sort of grasses or stuff that float in, they're 2 offset structures. It'll float up against the one. The water can get underneath it and go back out again, where the other one, it holds the water and back and stuff, and it keeps the flotation stuff from flowing downstream or into the rest of the system. So, and that is the extent of that PowerPoint presentation. It's a quick overview of what we have. And at this point, Mr. Mayor, it would be time for any public comment or public input if anybody has any.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion, second? Okay, we have motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Need to approve the plan for the year.
Yep.
Motion to approve the plan presented by Mr. Schneider for the annual year.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Council minutes, regular city council meeting minutes, July 10th, 2023. Minutes of boards and commissions, planning commission meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2023. Convention and visitors bureau meeting minutes of May 31st, 2023. Hare Lake Watershed Board meeting minutes of June 21st, 2023. We have some case items, application for parade permit to block streets for King Turkey Day. Applications for temporary on-sale liquor license, King Turkey Day. We also have council business public works for dock permit, and financial statements, general fund statement of revenue and expenditures for the period of January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023. Municipal liquor store income statement for the period of January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023. Olson Park Statement of Revenue and Expenditures, Budget and Actual for the period of January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023. Fieldhouse Statement of Revenue and Expenditures, Budget and Actual for the period of January 1st, 2023, June 30th, 2023, and bills payable.
Move consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to city council business, public safety.
Mayor, council, I'd like to introduce 2 of our newest officers, Ivan Martinez and Ernesto Rivera Mercado. They were welcomed and joined the Worthington Police Department team just a few months ago in this year. Ivan was born in Sioux City, Iowa, where he lived with his family until he was 11 years old. His family later moved to Worthington, where he graduated from the Worthington High School in 2019. After high school, he attended and graduated from Minnesota West in 2021 with a degree in law enforcement. Ivan started with WPD in March and is currently working full-time shifts for the department. Ernesto grew up in Puerto Rico, where he graduated from high school in 2015. He attended Puerto Rico's Caravab and graduated in 2018 with certification in aircraft mechanics. He worked briefly as an aircraft mechanic until he traveled to Worthington in 2018 due to a family emergency. While in Worthington, Hurricane Maria destroyed much of Puerto Rico, including his family's property. As a result, Ernesto decided to stay in Worthington, where he attended and graduated from Minnesota West in 2021 with a degree in law enforcement. Ernesto started with WPD in March and is currently working full-time shifts for the department. Tonight, Officer Martinez and Officer Rivera Mercado will take their officer oaths, and they will be officially welcome to the Worthington Police Department.
I, Ivan Martinez,
I, Ivan Martinez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully
and faithfully,
and to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a police officer
of a police officer
with the police department
with the police department
in and for the city of Worthington
and for the city of Worthington.
during my continuance of employment.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I be signed here? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Just raise your hand. I, Ernesto Rivera Mercado,
I, Ernesto Rivera Mercado,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully and to the best of my ability,
and faithfully
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability
discharge of the duties
discharge the
of
duties
a police officer
of police officer
with the police department
with the police department
in and for the city of Worthington
and for the city of Worthington
during my continuance of employment.
during my continuance of employment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I have you sign? Thank you.
Thank you.
On the backside.
Yep. Get
If
in.
anybody wants
Pardon
any
me, get in
pictures,
there.
you can come up and take
Yeah.
them up here.
Keeps, okay, you're good, yeah. One more. Here we go.
I'll turn to your right.
Right. Nope, we got one more. Troy, one more, one more. There we go.
I mean, there now.
Sure. All right.
Second case item, acceptance of program funds. New City Buffet generously donated $500 to the Worthington Police Department. The donation will be placed in police program reserves and will be utilized to enhance crime prevention programs. Council action is requested to adopt a resolution shown in Exhibit 1 accepting the $500 donation.
Motion. Oh,
I move to approve that donation.
second.
Okay, we have motion seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Walmart generously donated $1,000 to the Worthington Police Department. The donation will be placed in police program reserves and will be utilized to enhance crime prevention programs. Council action is requested to adopt a resolution shown in Exhibit 2 accepting the $1,000 donation.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to City Council Business Administration. Case item, text amendment, Title III, Chapter 32.
Just
for
announce,
coming,
thank you for coming. We're not offended if you go home, so
And if there's cake anywhere afterwards, let us know.
let us know.
Local sales and use tax of the City Code of Worthington, Nobles County, Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota Department of Revenue has revised the local sales tax, local option sales tax agreement between the city and the Department of Revenue concerning the transmittal of sales tax receipts to the city each month. This agreement was approved by the City Council on June 12th. The agreement allows the city 90 days to update our current ordinance in place regarding the collection of local sales and use tax if needed due to any change. Under the Minnesota statutes, Section 297A.99 needs to be added under Section 2 definitions, subsection D, state sales and use tax. The text being added is in red, and if you look down, Section 2 definitions, item D, along with the state statutes, we added 297A.99. That is the extent of the change in our ordinance. Council action is requested to approve the first reading of the proposed ordinance shown in the exhibit.
Move first reading. Okay, motion.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next, we have the annual approval of data practices, policy, and resolution appointing a responsible authority designee. League of Minnesota's Insurance Trust requires cities annually approve the data practices policy that's shown in Exhibit 4. It is also required that the city appoint a person as a responsible authority to meet the requirements of Chapter 13, collectively cited as the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. Staff requests that Steve Robinson, City Administrator, be appointed as the responsible authority. Mindy Egger, City Clerk, and Troy Apple, Public Safety Director, be appointed as the designees to assist in meeting the requirements of Minnesota statutes. City Clerk will be designated to assist with general data requests in reference to Chapter 13, and the Public Safety Director will be designated to assist with law enforcement data requests in reference to Section 13.18 of the Data Practices Act. Council is requested to approve the data practices policy and also adopt a resolution making the above appointments.
So moved.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead,
Chad?
sorry.
Second.
Okay, yep, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion?
In the event that someone needs either the information from Mindy or Troy, does notification also go to you as the?
Everything goes to me first, and then
Gotcha.
I distribute it.
Okay, just want to make sure on that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next, we have the award of quote for demolition of the former Lakeshore Service Station. Quotes for this project were received on July 12th. City received quotes from 3 contractors. All quotes were responsive. The quotes for the base amount are noted below. Neinkirk Companies, $58,950. Ideal Landscaping, $64,050, and Henning Construction, $64,445. The request for quotes included unit prices for work that may occur in excess of estimated quantities for the following: excavation and disposal of excess soil, excavation, removal, and disposal of contaminated soil, furnish and place additional fill material, furnish and place additional topsoil, and furnish and install additional turf restoration. In the request for quotes, estimated quantities for each of those items were given as part of the base bid, and we wanted unit prices declared if there are in excess of those amounts that were estimated. Nienkirk Companies submitted the low quote both in the base work and the unit prices. Staff's recommendation is to award the quote to Nienkirk Companies. Council action is requested.
Move to approve
Second.
awarding to Nienkirk Companies.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next, we have council discussion regarding the text amendment to Chapter 71, motorized golf carts. At the request of City Council, staff was asked to research the city's authority to allow the operation of golf carts on designated streets under the jurisdiction of the city. Council adopted Ordinance 918, establishing Chapter 71 of the City Code in March 2001, authorizing the permitting of motorized golf carts. The ordinance restricts the issuance of permits to institutions, and an institution is defined as a facility used exclusively as a residence for at least 15 elderly or disabled persons. The ordinance limits the issuance of only 2 permits per calendar year and references compliance with applicable Minnesota traffic regulation statutes. Minnesota Statute 169.045, under the heading of Special Vehicle Use on Roadway, grants that a home rule charter city may authorize by ordinance the operation of motorized golf carts on designated roadways under its jurisdiction. The statute, among other provisions, states motorized golf carts may only be operated on designated roadways from sunrise to sunset unless equipped with original equipment, headlights, taillights, and rear-facing brake lights. There are a number of provisions within that statute. I just called out the one, and we would, like council, discuss if they want staff to move further in crafting a draft ordinance for council's review.
Chad.
Yeah, I brought this forward after being approached by quite a few people. As we have many snowbirds and stuff that go to different communities down south, many of the golf cart manufacturers now are producing fully street legal golf carts with the headlight packages. You can get horns, you can get taillights, blinkers, all that stuff that go on there. And they're using them in many more cities. And so they said the investment of having a street legal one would be nice to be able to get to and from the course here now that there is no longer paid cart storage at the local course. You can still pay a trail fee and use your cart, but for those people that don't live immediately on the course, to be able to do that, having a fully street legal vehicle by a manufacturer, they requested that this get brought up, and it's happening in multiple cities. I shared Mankato doing the same thing that this is presenting today, allowing it to be with the guise of if it has street legal capabilities and is operated sunrise to sunset.
Yes, Amy.
I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with side-by-sides, you know, the same concept if it's street legal. It'd be a similar operation.
Slight difference is only in the capabilities of the vehicles, but you're not supposed to speed in town anyways, and even though the side-by-sides can, most of the golf
In my
carts.
car.
Yeah, exactly.
Would there be certain streets that we don't have authority over, like Krailsheim, Kazaa?
Correct. We only have authority over city streets, so Krailsheim is a county road. We can also designate certain streets that do not, where they're not permitted. One provision in another ordinance stipulates that they're only allowed on streets that have a 30-mile-an-hour or lower speed limit. So like if you looked at, I guess, parts of Oxford Street that have a speed limit of 35, I don't know if there's
First Avenue Southwest.
First Avenue Southwest. There are many provisions that council could select from. The sunrise to sunset, from my initial reading of the state statute, seems to be limited to golf carts that are not fully equipped with lights. I guess my recommendation, if you want to go that direction, I think would probably prefer that only fully equipped golf carts are allowed on the streets, not one with a slow-moving vehicle sign and using hand signals to turn
You
and,
have to have a lot of reflective, and
Yeah.
that would just ruin the looks.
Can they go on Oxford? If we set it to 30 miles an hour or less, they won't be able to get to the golf course.
The
One-
would they be able to cross those roads, but
you
just not
can-
drive on them? Like,
yeah.
they do that?
And that was one of the, North Mankato passed their ordinance a week ago. And we pulled up their ordinance and reviewed it. One thing is they specifically state that you can cross a non-designated street. So I think we would want to make sure that that were a provision in our ordinance.
And these are, these are units that are manufactured with the correct equipment,
I just randomly looked at one golf cart manufacturer last week. They offered a regular 2-person golf cart or a 4-person golf cart completely outfitted with all lights, turn signals, mirrors, brake lights, everything you would see on a regular car.
So this would be something that would be original equipment then, because they're probably going to be coming out with kits to put on there as well.
And what I read, and again, my first blush looking at the state statutes, the provisions are stricter if you do not limit it to sunrise to sunset. If it's sunrise to sunset, it has to be manufacturer installed original equipment. And again, I'm kind of going out on a limb because I read through that statute once and there's a lot in there. It may be that if you limited it to sunrise to sunset, that some of these provisions would be, a kit may be.
Especially with getting signals on something like that.
Yeah.
And that way they can see coming and going that they have lights on.
But if you are interested in us proceeding, we would put together information and some draft ordinances. This is not going to likely have benefit much this summer, fall season, but it would be in place because I think there's a lot of things we'd want to. With all these provisions, there may be a lot of discussion at the council level as what you would prefer and what you would not like to see.
Yeah, I would think we would want to at least explore the opportunity too, of it not being just a sunset, for the fact that the course that we have also has a full restaurant in it, that if a person were to go play a round of golf and then go up and have supper afterwards, and if, depending on the time of the year, that can happen, not long after you would play around and go eat, maybe in the later part of the golf season in the fall or something, the sun goes down a little sooner, and would it prevent someone from being able to grab something to eat and then go home afterwards. So I think we should maybe consider some of that too.
much like a, I don't know, ATV or UTV, do they need to be licensed with a plate and like a tab kind of thing?
No, but you can, like looking at North Mankato's ordinance, you have to have a city permit and it has to be inspected by the city to have that permit issued. So there is a level of
Kind of like our
Authority
administrative
jurisdiction.
fee things that we do opposed
Yeah.
to it being a,
Age depict as well.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you have to have a driver's license, there are a number of provisions I saw in North Mankato that I would recommend that we include, plus there may be some that we would not, and maybe others that we would add, so.
Kind of what Amy was getting at, though, yeah, you really can't get to the golf course, though, because I was saying you could, go over Oxford, but at some point, unless you're going onto someone's private property to then get to the golf course, or going on the far side, like, you are going to be going on Crailsheim, or you're going to be going on Oxford Street when it is a county road, so
Sneaking down the bike
There's
path.
not
I think we'd have
There's
to
not
look
a
at other
street.
options, or, almost if the golf
There-
course would allow.
I know a path how to get there with a small toll fee to go through my backyard if you want. Yeah, there
Yeah,
would,
some of those,
there
or
would
even
be.
like the Glenwood Heights development, they would have no way of getting from that whole
Well,
development if there would be a,
And there's nothing to say that there could be sections of the bike path that you could say allow,
right, but you'd have to.
Jurisdiction.
Go on Crailsheim, a stretch,
but,
or across.
yeah, and there are going to be some neighborhoods where it's going to be a difficult path to find a legitimate route from their home to,
There's coming up with a lot of motor-sized bicycles now too anyways.
Yeah.
And, be a gray area there too as well.
so I guess as staff, we're just looking for direction. If you want us to continue with this, we will start working on it.
So as well too, yeah.
Okay, so we don't need any action other than your direction. Next case item is Memorial Auditorium Performing Arts Center and Independent School District 518 rental agreement. For many years, Worthington School District 518 has utilized the city's Memorial Auditorium Performing Arts Center for school district productions. This agreement reserves the facility for the school's use for a total of 62 days per contract year. Should the usage exceed 62 days per contract year, the school district shall pay a prorated amount for the additional days. Current contract, which was a 3-year contract, expired on June 30th. Auditorium management and administrative staffs in both the city and ISD 518 recommend renewing a 3-year agreement that would be in effect from July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2026. Proposed agreement, which was included as Exhibit 6, includes an approximate 4% increase for each of the 3 years of the new contract, and provides that the school district shall pay the city for the following rental fees: year 1, $35,000; year 2, $36,500; and year 3, $38,000 annually. These fees received from the school district represent 50% of the Memorial Auditorium's total budgeted revenue, excluding taxes. School board approved this agreement at their July 18th, 2023 meeting. Staff recommends council approve the agreement and authorize execution by the mayor and clerk.
Questions or discussions? We have a motion?
Move to approve the agreement.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion, second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Thank you.
Engineering.
We have a recommendation for award of a contract for the construction of sanitary sewer and water main on North Humiston Avenue from Oxford Street north to Ryan's Road. Public Utilities approved the advertisement for bids for the construction of a sanitary sewer and water main utilities along the east frontage road of Trunk Highway 59, that's north of the north end of Humiston Avenue. Bids were opened on July 7th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. with 2 bids received. Dunick Incorporated was the low bid at $797,246. And the second bid was Henning Construction at a bid of $1,053,853.75. The engineer's estimate was at $972,835. The low bid was 18% under the estimate of, that's $175,589. Public Utilities Commission met and discussed the project costs and supports the award of the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Since TIF funding is being used for construction, the City Council is needed to award the contract. Staff supports the recommendation of the Public Utilities Commission to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Dunick Incorporated of Princeburg, Minnesota, in the amount of $797,246.
Can we go for the 797?
No.
Steve?
So just as a reminder, these were funds in the Oxford Street TIF district that previously were all transferred to our spending plan with the idea that we knew this project was going to take place, and those funds, once it was bid, would be transferred back from the spending plan to the TIF district. So at some point, we will come back to council and present a resolution to have those funds transferred back.
Yes, Steve?
Also, just as a note and stuff, as you're probably aware, we have some development happening on the North Humiston area, especially on the east side. We have some property transfers taking place and things like that. This project is very timely to get that ready for that development. We have a series of problems with easements and locations of sewer and water mains in that neighborhood, and this is going to clean up a lot of connections between people's homes and other problems we're having in that general area. So it's a really great project. I think we got a really competitive price on it, and by getting this done now, then we kind of help some businesses that are changing in the area, the Dairy Queen, the Billion Motors in that neighborhood, plus the new tire shop that's looking at starting up. So it's a perfect time to get all that stuff done before everybody moves in and starts getting their businesses, going strong, and then we don't want to interrupt them any more than we have to.
What's the timeline?
Well, obviously, as soon as we award the contract, we'll get the contract signed, bonds in place and stuff, and then we'll talk to the contractor about that. We have the completion, we want everything done by about the middle of October, like most of our projects and stuff. We usually gear that around when the bituminous surfacing can be wrapped up with the plant before the plant closing. So that's usually how we time these, is give them plenty of time to do it, and usually we're probably looking at middle October toward the end of October.
MnDOT been consulted as far as its effects on future plans, or is it something that's going to need to be dug up as we move on with those plans in the next couple of years, or?
No, what we're doing now and stuff, the frontage road is going to remain in place. There might have to be some adjustment possibly. For example, we'll put in to match the existing surface of the road now, but when they come back and reconstruct, if there's any modification in that area and stuff, they may have to raise or lower things to meet the new pavement. You can't change it too much in that area just because of the natural ground and where the storm sewer systems and stuff are. So you're going to have to stay pretty close to where we're at right now with elevations. So whatever we're doing now should be fine. We won't have to dig it up or do anything more with it. And we're putting services out there for future businesses and stuff that could come in there too. So when they come in, they'll just have to hook on to what's there, and what we put back would be fine. Like I say, we'll anticipate all that being the surface portion of stuff all being reconstructed. Where there's guardrail, there'll probably end up being curb and gutter and things like that. And we're just dealing with the DOT on driveway widths to the new tire shop there, and it sounds like we've got the width of the driveway opening resolved with them. So everything's moving along pretty well by cooperation with everybody, the state, us, and the developers.
Okay, any council have anything else?
Move to award the contract to Dunick Inc. for $797,246 as bid.
A motion?
Second.
Okay, a motion is seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thanks, Steve. Community development.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the first item here is a conditional use permit for 1438 Humiston Avenue. And as Steve just gave it away here, this is for a new tire shop.
Stole that thunder.
Yeah, so this one, the applicant here, KLJ Engineering, on behalf of Les Schwab Tire Centers, has submitted an application at 1438 Humiston Avenue. If approved, the existing building, that being the old Runnings building, would be demolished and replaced with a new facility. Pursuant to our Minnesota statute and city code, the city can require that automotive repair services are permitted by conditional use permit only in the B3 General Business District, the zoning designation of the subject property. At its July 11th meeting, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the requested conditional use permit, subject to a few conditions here. One is the applicant obtain approval from the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the change in access from the frontage road, which is close to being resolved. I don't know what their final decision on, but that is a condition here. The bullpen, as they call it, shall be constructed of masonry block or similar material and must not be see-through. If you look at Exhibit 1B, the site plan, what they label as the bullpen, that's essentially kind of a structure where they store their used junk tires temporarily before they're picked up and disposed of. And then another exhibit further down has kind of a couple examples from some other locations of theirs, both in Colorado. Number 3, the applicant shall establish vegetative screening along the rear or east side of the property. That would kind of provide a bit of a buffer between the residential behind it and this new site there. And then 4, our catch-all, the subject property must maintain compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal standards and requirements. And then you can go through, see what their recommendation was based on there. With that, I'll take any questions.
Council? They've got about 450 plus locations, I know that. Most of it's in the West Coast area.
Yep, I believe they're headquartered in Oregon, and they're quickly expanding east now, so.
It would be nice to see that section updated instead of empty.
Yeah.
This is approximately half of that.
Yep, that's correct. The current owners who bought it want to maintain ownership of the north half of the property for future development.
That's more.
I know Jimmy Johns, that guy that runs that, he'd like to move on the other side of Oxford Street out there too. But I was thinking of the nickel, but Hodgman's is in there for their construction for a period of time. But
It's a good place to be.
okay, any further discussion? Otherwise, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the conditional use permit. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. On to number 2. This is a preliminary plat for 1530 Airport Road. Nobles County has submitted a request for approval of a preliminary plat of land located at 1530 Airport Road. This is the Prairie Justice Center. The proposed subdivision will split the property into 3 lots, and then you can see the legal description after that. Planning Commission considered the request at their July 11th meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the requested preliminary plat. And then you can kind of see what their recommendation was based on. The gist here is that the one lot would front on Highway 59 there. That currently contains like a pollinator garden there. A lot of people would kind of call that the thumb of the property right now if you kind of put your hand like that, I guess. The other lot, Lot 2, would contain the Prairie Justice Center building, and then Lot 3 would front down on the south side of the property along 27th Street there. They have not informed us of any plans for either of these 2 new lots there, other than somewhere is going to be a impound storage building. So with that, council action is requested.
All right, right here. Okay, any questions?
I just see that. Okay. Oh, okay.
I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. So number 3, this is the final plat for the same property there. That can be seen in Exhibit 3A. Other than the lack of elevation data on it, there are no changes to it. Everything's the same size, same measurements, all of that. So you just approved the preliminary plat. So now by motion, you can approve the final plat.
Move final plat.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, number 4 here, this is a conditional use permit amendment for 700 Second Avenue. So the city in this case is seeking an amendment to the CUP issued in June of 2021, which allows for the operation of our indoor field house there at 700 Second Avenue. We're seeking to amend or remove the requirement of a fence along the southeast property line, kind of along the railroad track there. So at its July 11th meeting, the City Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the requested amendment to remove the fence requirement entirely. I'll kind of explain this a little bit. Back then, Planning Commission added a requirement that we install a 4-foot, 6-inch tall fence, kind of along the railroad track there, back in that area you can see. It took us a while to get to the point where we were ready to do that. And after looking at the cost of it, which Planning Commission didn't consider, but I'll tell you the quote's about $10,000 for that. And just looking at the site there, you can see all the heavy brush back there and everything. We just thought it didn't make a whole lot of sense to fence that, especially when there hasn't been any outdoor programming or anything like that there. And Planning Commission agreed with us this time around as well and recommended that we just remove that requirement entirely. So that's what we're seeking this time here. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Just for clarity, is it the cost of a project to be considered by the planning commission when they consider projects?
No, that's why I
Thank you.
very intentionally left that out of it.
So would not putting the fence there be prohibitive of having outdoor programming for the field house? We could still have it, but we'd have a liability.
What were the stated location of the fence?
That is in one of the exhibits there, 4A, if you want to go to that.
At the time, it was the project that basically went up to the piece of property that isn't ours.
Yep.
And with the consideration of, okay, if they're going to be potentially utilizing the outside area, they would like some barrier there, I think. And then in talking about this again, this time, to a more of the focus for potential fence use would be farther up the hill, which wasn't considered on this property, or wasn't supposed to be considered on this property, closer to the fire hall, because it's there's no trees on that part, and the access to the tracks is easier. There's not
Ground level is a
the
lot
ground
closer
level
to
is
the
more
track.
closer to the level of the track. So that's really the difference in this
We
property.
put it in this though, because it got taken out of the one for the fire hall at one time, because we keep talking about putting a fence in for safety reasons, so kids don't go on the track or somebody else goes on the track. And then we take it out because it's too expensive. And I think that happened with the fire hall as well. We've talked about it multiple times since I've been on council.
Yeah.
I
So
guess-
in this
What
case,
does it look like in the fall? Can I ask that? I mean, you should.
I mean, less leaves, but so this red line here is where technically right now we're required to put the fence. That highlighted piece that we don't own, that's owned by Minnesota Energy. That area looks a lot different than it does a little bit up that hill there. For one, the grade up to the railroad track is very steep. And then there's heavy brush back there, which even when you lose the leaves, all those trees and bushes and stuff are still there. The majority of which is on the railroad right-of-way property. Once you get further up the hill, it is more open to the railroad tracks, which I think was the concern when they required this, and that was still kind of the concern that was talked about. But in terms of the actual footprint of the Fieldhouse project, the fence doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. You know, the railroad tracks with the grade and everything and all that brush, it's just not the most accessible. And even then, one of the alternate options, you know, if you were having outdoor programming, I don't think we'd want kids behind the building anyways. So it'd make more sense even just to square it off to the corner of the building there. Steve, I think that's exhibit,
Page 115.
yeah.
Page 115.
Yeah, even that would make a little bit more sense, with all of our HVAC equipment behind the building and stuff. You don't really want anybody back there anyways, so, what's the point of running a fence behind the building? At the very least, square it off to the building to just prevent people from going back there entirely.
At some point, isn't a trail gonna go
It's
down?
down here.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll have to address that.
Yeah, and I think that could easily be addressed
Right here.
as part of that trail project, so.
And maybe at that point, it would be instead of the full fence, because of all of the trees and the foliage, maybe it would just be two fences going straight off so no one goes behind the field house, and then it would just kind of tie in, so that way it's very clear you cannot access that area without having to run a full fence that doesn't really serve a purpose.
And that's, I guess my
Once we do the trail.
My question is, you have a fence that runs a distance with no end to it, or no closure. So if you want to get in this other fence,
They're gonna,
just go down to one end and go to the other side.
Right.
and they're only
So-
4 foot, they're gonna jump over it.
Yeah. So
Or they'll come from the other way too.
I don't have opposition to fencing, and I didn't really care what the cost was, but it was, if we're going to do a fence, let's do something that actually accomplishes what we intended to do, rather than,
Thinking that's what we were going to do. We talk about this all the time. I'm just hesitate to,
my point about the finances is the way the fence was originally intended, that's a waste of money.
I could agree with that.
If there's another plan,
Can we look, because we've talked about putting a fence all the way behind the fire hall to keep people away from the railroad. Can we look at putting a proper fence all the way up the hill?
a proper fence,
Yeah, like an acceptable
Is-
fence. Hey, and I know we don't own that one chunk. Is that like, how wide is that?
do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's,
Should we put a gate or something in there so it's still
Is that where
accessible
that
by Minnesota
gas
Energy?
line is?
yeah.
I'd have to double check because there is a piece, it kind of butts up to, almost looks like a retaining wall there.
Right.
Yep.
I can't remember exactly where that falls in relation to that parcel, but
It's the concrete wall there.
I've never been specifically right there, but yeah.
You just drive down the hill, you'll see it, that the concrete
Does that
wall
go
is
under the
30
under
feet,
the
at
track?
least
Is
30
that a-
feet wide.
Is that a drain deal, goes under the track?
No.
Or just a wall?
Yeah, I do think reviewing though to see where a fence, again, I don't think for this property, it probably makes sense to have one. But yeah, as you said, as you get further, I don't even know what direction that is, but as you get further up the hill, then are there other areas that do make sense closer to the pavilion where you have people closer to the railroad tracks? Or have we had issues? I mean,
You could
looking
run
at that as a
into
whole.
parking lot issues behind the fire hall too, because railroad property could go right up to the curb.
Yeah.
We don't want somebody to be injured and then deal with it. We would like to deal with it before someone gets injured to show at least good faith.
is it the city responsibility or is it the railroad? Because isn't there some fencing that's done as you go up
There,
further and who's fencing?
the
is
the
it?
railroad has installed
That was,
an extensive amount of
right, and that was, I think, installed as part of the agreement for the closing of the
Closing of
16th
yeah.
Street crossing, so.
yeah.
Okay.
And they may not be opposed to extending that fencing back towards the fire hall, especially if it's more of an at-grade issue.
I will say if the city owns the fence, it'll be more properly maintained over time though. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, theirs was set it and forget it, so.
But
And even if it's falling down, they forgot it.
I think, my point is, we should amend the CUP as it is currently stated regarding the fence. And if you want staff to explore other options for fencing in that entire area, we can do that. But as it was originally approved, the fence has minimally accomplishes what the goal was.
I would be in favor of exploring a better option.
Where?
wherever it's needed.
That's,
And I guess I don't think it's
that's a wide
necessary
open,
for this.
that's a wide open
along-
perspective.
Well, but
gonna
that's
have a-
along that strip,
If you're gonna
you
have
know,
something
from,
that is working, it probably
from
gonna
the
need to be a
field house
6-foot
to
fence.
the
And we're.
10th Street
yeah.
Pavilion.
We're limited to city-owned property.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
as it,
It's got to stop at some point and then start again.
If you approve this, as planning commission recommended to amend it, we could come back at the next meeting with more of a proposal for fencing kind of further up where it makes a lot more sense. So you could approve that and direct us to
Yeah,
put forth another proposal.
I mean, I agree with the removing the fence down towards the building part. That is very steep, and it is very dense in tree and brush structure that to try and get up that's work in itself.
And if you're gonna need to put a fence on the other,
To even
the
get
west
up there.
side, you have to put a gate in there somewheres for getting to the utilities.
It's way bigger than a gate. It's a way bigger span than a gate. That cement wall is
yeah.
That one there, yeah.
30-plus feet.
Is that where Minnesota Energy is, where that?
Right
gap-
in that-
okay.
It's in that general area, yeah.
You'd probably butt up against that and carry on.
People pull their cars lengthwise and take senior pictures for years. They did when I was a kid along that chunk of concrete because it had cool graffiti on it and stuff for years. And people, I mean, Rick Stewart, you can ask him how many senior pictures he's taken along that wall. It's so big because people pulled their cars up to it.
Okay, council?
I'd move to approve the requested amendment to remove the fence requirement entirely from this property. And also to suggest that we looking at all city-owned property as a whole for fencing and see where that would make sense.
Along that corridor.
Along
On this
that
corridor.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Go ahead. Motion, do we have
I
a
would
second?
second what you said.
Okay, further discussion?
Now remember that the city is also in possession of everything right on the other side of the fence. So if you're going to fence one side, are we now going to fence the other side?
Perhaps as it comes developed, or
So what's the
also
safety,
a
what's
soccer
the
side.
safety protection
Right.
for, even if it's not
But if there's
developed?
city-sponsored activities along this side, I think we wouldn't have city-sponsored activities right now on the other side.
All we have is parking right now.
And then beyond that is a soccer field.
On
Right
what
across
side
the
are you
street.
talking?
On the other side of the tracks, the old Ready Mix is now all city property.
I understand that, but like
So
you
there's-
said, that's only parking right now?
No, I'm saying, next to the field house.
The field house, and they could potentially have activities outside. You go up the hill towards the fire hall. Fire hall does have programming sometimes with kids and stuff around it. And then we have the 10th Street Pavilion, which definitely has activities going on. So,
And that's what I'm saying. Right across the tracks from that is city-owned property as well.
we don't have activities there, for now. I agree with what you said. Maybe
And-
as it's developed, if we
Right.
have to do something.
the potential for activities on the north side of the tracks is obviously more than the other side because of the green space. Part of I think Fieldhouse staff's opinion was that, well, we're not doing anything in that lot right now. Well, you've been open you've been open a year or whatever. We haven't realized the potential for what that space could be and might be used for. So it's, like Councilwoman Ernst said about the potential for use there. I think would be fitting, but if the councils would be open to addressing that as the more of a need arises, okay. But anyway, I think that's I'd be with the conditional use permit amendment there for right now.
Okay, all right, so we have a Motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right. Lastly, this is a professional services agreement with Maxfield Research and Consulting. This is for another housing study. The city's last comprehensive housing study was completed in 2018 by Maxfield. This study provides valuable information regarding housing demand, characteristics, rental market analysis, affordability development costs, and recommendations for the city. Staff is hearing from developers that the current study is outdated and they're not able to confidently use that data any longer. The age of the study is cited as the number one reason for that. The other is the unknown impacts of the pandemic and then the rapid inflation we've experienced here. We just don't really know what impact that's had on housing demand, the cost levels of, and how the cost factors into the demand and stuff like that. Maxfield also recommends an updated study every 5 years, which we're right at the 5-year mark. So with that, staff requests a proposal from Maxfield, and that can be seen in Exhibit 5A there. Maxfield identified a few options. Those included an initial market assessment, which examines the market rate rental housing demand only, a market demand assessment, which would look at demand across all housing types, and then a comprehensive housing needs assessment. That would be like your full-blown housing study that looks at cost, type, characteristics, current occupancy rates, that kind of stuff. Staff recommends proceeding with the initial market assessment at a cost of $5,200 first, which would provide a demand for market rate rental housing and can be completed within 45 to 50 days of signing it. Staff then recommends moving into the full comprehensive housing study at $17,500, which would take approximately 5 to 6 months. That they've informed me they could not start until sometime late this year. So you'd be looking at, maybe by summer you would have that done next year. The cost of that initial market study, that $5,200, would be deducted from the full cost of the cost of the full study, I should say there. So you aren't spending money twice here. The advantage to doing the initial assessment first is timing. We can have that data as we work with developers to try to get them to build some housing here, as well as just so that we know exactly what our demand is for things like apartments, townhomes, that sort of stuff. So with that, staff recommends doing the initial market assessment first and then the full comprehensive study after that.
Council? Yep, Steve?
What's really motivating us to move forward with this market assessment is that developers need that information to get their lenders and investors confident that their project would have the return on investment. So that's one of the things that is being requested from us from every developer that we've met with.
Amy?
The initial market, the results of the initial market assessment is not, or the full comprehensive study is not contingent on the results of the initial market assessment, is it?
No.
Okay. Like if we get certain results back from the initial, we'll for sure go through the whole thing.
We still need an updated housing study, and their numbers will say whatever it is.
I appreciate that it's not as old as the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Is it, so we heard about the impact of getting financing for contractors and that kind of thing, developers. Is there any other benefits to the study? Because we all know we
Could aid
need
in-
housing, but
Could aid in grants,
That's
either
what I-
coming from state or federal.
that's what I was getting to, if it would, if there would benefit from that.
Yeah, I would also consider this part of an incentive package you could give a developer, because they do advertise that the data they provide is generally accepted by banks, as for their financing, for investors, that kind of thing. So instead of having to go do their own, they can just take this data. So that's one way to look at it is, just the first step in an incentive package for a developer. But it also kind of gives us a big clue as to how many apartment units we actually need built here. Everybody knows we need some, but, do you know exactly how many the market could support? that kind of thing. So,
And what kind of apartments, are,
rent level, especially, that's a big one.
Yeah.
So.
1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, studios, what is the demand for? I think the previous housing study, it overestimated the number of 3-bedroom units that were needed, and Rising Sun followed that and had trouble initially renting out those 3-bedroom apartments.
Okay. Council, anything else? Do we have a motion?
I make the motion to proceed with the initial market assessment and with the full comprehensive housing study as presented.
Okay, motion, second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Nat. Committee reports. I went to the Farm Bill deal. That was kind of a bust. There was like 2 people there, besides those people, myself and Dean Christopher. So, but visited a little bit, and I was there about an hour, I suppose, but interesting. I gave him my card anyways, and said, well, when Brad comes to town, let us know. It sounds like they'll have a grand opening for that armory or military deal over in Laverne, so it might be that's coming up too, so we might see him. I think it's in October somewhere. That's all I have. Larry?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Amy?
No report.
Chris?
What do we got tomorrow?
Comprehensive plan open house at the field house from 5 to 7.
Comprehensive plan open house at the field house from 5 to 7?
Yes.
Right. Be there. we need your input. Thank you.
No report.
Okay. Chad?
No report. Congratulations to the International Festival Committee on another good international festival. I probably picked up a few more pounds and enjoyed the performances.
Very much so, yes. Steve?
We received first half property tax settlement on June 30th, $3,611,221. We received our first half LGA payment on July 20th, $1,788,480. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Marilyn Chalengi, our newly anointed assistant city engineer who began work this morning and is
Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome to town.
excited. Marilyn is a recent graduate of University of Minnesota Duluth with a civil engineering degree, and we're very happy to be back at a staffing level and have.
Got a place to live yet?
It's getting there.
Okay, good. Excellent. Welcome.
All right.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.